take place using cyber world. Not just computers, cyber world, because it's more than a laptop or a PC. He's going to give you more information than you probably want, and I hope you walk out of here today with a little bit of fear about what you do and where you go and what you post and who you talk to using the World Wide Web. So without further ado, here's Eric.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me like this? Awesome. Yeah, until somebody objects. As your principal said, my name is Eric Tamashasky. I'm kind of a weird creature in the law enforcement circles because I was a prosecutor, so I was a lawyer before I moved to the sheriff's department. So now I play both lawyer for the sheriff and police officer for cybercrimes type stuff. And so what we've tried to do is take things from different investigations we've done and kind of things that have surprised us and share them with you. Because you guys are really the target for most of the cyber crimes that go on in the universe. Once you hit 7th or 8th grade, you're pretty much what everyone's looking for online, and so it's on you to try and be safe. First things I want to talk to you about, how many in here have lost control at some point of an email account or Facebook or Twitter, been hacked, in air quotes? Okay, I see several shy hands. Usually it's about half the people in your age group at some point have lost control. We figured out how that happens, and I can tell you how to stop that. First thing we want to talk about is making a good password. If you see your password anywhere on the list, it sucks. These are all very, very easy passwords, very straightforward. They're all very easy to break into. So how do you make a password that is useful? And I will tell you, everybody's not good at this. The homicide unit with whom I work, the passwords for all their computers are their first names. So if I sit down at Tom Cameron's computer and type in Tom, I'm into his computer. So the grown-up side of this is terrible as well. Think of a sentence that you can remember, anything. When I first did this presentation, there was no way this was remotely true. Notre Dame lost about 7 games a season. But I can remember this. Notre Dame football will win a national championship again. Take the first letter from every word, so it's not all that mysterious. That by itself would be 22 minutes to crack. That's very easy. I have the patience for that. Now if you make a rule like capitalize letters in the first half of the alphabet, or capitalize the second half, or capitalize only vowels, it doesn't matter. Come up with something you can remember. Now it's 8 days to crack that password. Infinitely better than the word password, and even if you're feeling particularly catchy and you make the O a 0, still infinitely better than that. If you add a year somewhere, it could be the year you were born, it could be this year, I don't care. Put a year somewhere in it, now it's 1,000,000 years to break that password. So if you can remember Notre Dame football win a national championship again, you can have a password that takes 1,000,000 years to break. I can promise you, sitting at my desk, I don't have the patience to try and break your password for 1,000,000 years. If you add punctuation of some kind to it, now it's 2,000,000,000 years. And for the record, that used to be a question mark. Now I feel a little more optimistic that Notre Dame might in fact win again. With 2,000,000,000 years to crack that password. And all you have to do is remember a sentence. You can take lyrics from a song. If you do that, that's 58 years just to crack that password. That's really small. It's really easy to remember. You're doing 55 to 54. You can keep this picture in your camera roll in your phone or your iPod or whatever to remember what your password is. If one of your friends grabs your phone, they're not going to recognize that this is actually the key to your online world. They just think it's some goofy picture. In fact, that looks like a Walker cop, but I digress. This is a sign you might see in one of your parents' walls. It's Latin for "in wine there's truth," which may not be true. That's 23 trillion years to crack that, and all I have to do is keep that in my photo roll. As far as passwords go, that makes you pretty safe. You should use different passwords. If you have one password for everywhere you go online, you're in danger. Because one of the places that you give your password to is going to get hacked. It seems like every month somebody, Instagram gets hacked or Twitter gets hacked. And then people get a database of every username and every password. If you're the same across everything, you can lose control. But all you do is to me, I just created a rule where I put the name of where I'm going on the end of my long, silly password, and that's unbreakable. So eBay, Gmail, PayPal, KeyBank, whatever, those passwords are super complicated looking, very easy to make, and as far as the password side goes, unbreakable. But that's only half of how you get hacked. This is the most important part. All the celebrities you hear that lose the naked pictures, one, for some reason they send them via Gmail, which is kind of weird. And number two, what happens is people like this. Even with the best passwords, every place online has a way for you to reset a lost password. When I was a prosecutor, I was in charge of the DUI homicide team. And before there was Dropbox, before there was the cloud, I made a Gmail account where I could store the search warrants or blood draw forms or consent forms that we all needed. The reset question that I created back then was the last name of the guy in charge. Any one of you with Google could find out that's Tim Spencer. So basically in 10 seconds you own my DUI homicide account because you can use Google. And there are no good security questions. What's your mother's maiden name? What school do you go to? What's your favorite music? All of those things suck because they're true. So I'm going to come in and tell you, wearing a badge and a gun, the best way to do this is to lie. Lie to every security question you're ever asked. The word Kalamazoo makes me laugh. When the question is posed to me, what's my mother's maiden name? My answer is Kalamazoo. It's actually Wilson. But when the computer asks me what it is, I know that I lied. I know that it's Kalamazoo, or it's dog bowl, or whatever it is that floats your boat. Oh, you make up something that I can't find by being your Facebook friend. Make up something that I can't find by following you on Twitter. Make up something I can't find by knowing your parents. If the answer to your high school mascot is actually Falcons, you're done. And this is how people are getting hacked. This is how you're losing control. Even with good passwords, this is how people get in. This is also how your parents get hacked. Because they've answered every security question truthfully, and I bet if you ask the teachers, how many of you have actually lied on the security questions, the answer is going to be none. So they may have the best password. You can see them smiling over there. They may have the best passwords ever. They may keep them on a little sheet of paper in their wallet. But when you go to principal model's account, what school am I principal of? What is there, 300 people here who know the answer to that? You own his account. I usually do this when I talk with parents because most of you understand that Nigerian princes don't contact you via email. I think all of you understand that no one is going to send you an email saying you won $10 million. Your parents aren't so good at that. Grandparents are. It seems like every 6 months there's grandparents that get ripped off because somebody sends them an email saying, your grandson is in a Mexican prison. And grandma says, oh my God, that's terrible. It says $5,000 to some idiot. So make sure your parents know if it's too good to be true, it is. Another area that is important for you guys is peer-to-peer file sharing. Years ago it was LimeWire. Now it's Email, Aries, all these different places if you want to go on for free and get the movie or the music. The problem is these are all monitored by the recording industry. They're monitored by law enforcement. This is an example on one social networking site, one peer-to-peer sharing site. This is all the people sharing child pornography in a 1-hour time period. Every one of those people would do at least 10 years in federal prison. Now, I don't have time to do that because I have golf and a family, but this is 1 hour. So if we can tell you where all the people are violating federal law, we can sure tell you who's sharing movies and who's sharing music and who's doing this. This is really creepy. According to this map, the only place you can live without one of these idiots living next door is Montana. I did this at 9 o'clock in the morning. Look at the West Coast. It's 6 a.m. there. I don't think I've seen 6 a.m. for a decade, but all those people got up right early so they could share child porn. Every one of those would be on the Fed's radar. We actually have an assistant United States attorney here today who prosecutes all of our cases, and I'll introduce him later. Every one of those cases, he would be interested in indicting, and he would put it in prison for a very long time. We know where they are, we just have to go get them. Unsecured home wireless, this is another problem. This is a problem for a couple different reasons. That case at the top, two people live next door to one another, neighbor A, neighbor B. Neighbor A used neighbor B's Wi-Fi to create an email account and then send helpful messages to the vice president like, I'm going to kill you. This may surprise you, the Secret Service doesn't think that's funny. So they went and kicked in the guy's door, arrested him, did what Secret Service people did, and then figured out it was the neighbor and he's going to prison for 18 years. When people go online and do bad stuff, everything that goes online has a unique identifier called an IP address. Most of you know what it is, you can explain it to some of your teachers later or your parents. That's what we from law enforcement use. When I do a search warrant to find you, I'm going for the IP address. Your unsecured Wi-Fi network is your IP address. If law enforcement says, I want to know whose that is, because I want to go kick in the door, that's where they're going to. That's the address that happened. I don't care what password you use here. This password could be anything. Just have your neighbor look at it and see it's locked. Just have the guy driving down the street see you need a password to use your Wi-Fi, they'll move on. It's just like a burglar looking at a house. If there's no lights on, they're interested. If you have a front light on, they move on. Having any sort of a password on your Wi-Fi network anywhere is pretty much the equivalent of turning a light on. They'll move on and go on their way. Now, you probably know this, but everybody is looking at you guys online. And it's not just your friends, it's your friends' parents. It's your parents, it's teachers, it's coaches, it's police. I can tell you that there are several street gangs in South Bend who are doing 40 to 50 years in federal prison because they were Facebook friends with me. These guys would go shoot up a house, they would post something online that said, ooh, I just aired out a house. We would go screen capture, indictment, federal prison. So if you have 1,500 Facebook friends, there's a good chance some of them are actually people like me. Because they're not actually 1,500 people your own age. Everybody's curious what's going on. The Federal Trade Commission has said that employers can use your Facebook information, your profile, your posts, in background checks. So if your Facebook page isn't locked down, there are companies whose entire job it is to go online and record what people are doing on Facebook. They keep this stuff for about 7 years. Which means if you're 14 now, when you're 21, you may have to answer what 14-year-old you put online. And that may be the difference, the deciding factor between do you get the job or do you not? Do you get to go to the college you want to or not? Do you get the loan? Do you not? College admissions types, 80%, I think this number is way low. For the county police, we use Twitter and Facebook. I mean, we're not like Big Brother, give me your password. But for people who put it out there, we go up. And there's people every week washed out of the hiring process because they put something stupid online. Here's an example from Twitter. This kid, for some unknown reason, wanted to play football at the University of Michigan. I think he wanted to major in kinesiology or whatever it is they do there. This guy was putting a bunch of kind of obnoxious stuff on Twitter. His Twitter account was locked down, but he had like 1,000 type of followers on Twitter. Most of them were like grown-ups who were really interested in what high school kids are doing about football. He posted dumb stuff, it became national news, and he lost his scholarship to Michigan because of stuff he typed online. This is from the Library of Congress. Helpfully, the Federal Library of Congress has decided to archive every single tweet that's ever been made. So if you've put something on Twitter and everybody can see it, the Library of Congress is writing it down. So that may or may not be interesting to you to know. They think this is awesome. I think they've acquired all of the tweets since 2006. Doing the math, most of you were 5. So pretty much anything you've ever put on Twitter is going to be in the Library of Congress. So congratulations. But you got to be worried about who's going to have access to that. You know, there's something to be said for kids being kids. You should be able to say and think what you want without having to answer for it 10 years from now. Thankfully, the Library of Congress has seen that that's not really going to happen. All right, Facebook. Well, a lot of you are on Twitter and Instagram type stuff. I do want to talk a little bit about Facebook. There's a lot of information on a public Facebook page. Some of this information can be used to hack you if you haven't lied on your password reset questions. Here's an example of a page. This girl's name is Kelly Redkin, goes to UVA. Mom isn't on Facebook, but sister and aunt are. Musical tastes run to Lil Wayne. I don't know why, but there you go. Tons of pictures, all kinds of places where she's at. Everybody in the world can go look at this picture and go look at this page. There's a lot of information about her that's out there that she probably doesn't just want to share with random strangers. So you want to be careful on security on these things, and how locked down are you? All right, pop quiz, what do these two people have in common? Yes? Close, they're the same person. This guy is Kelly Redkin. What he wanted to do was find basically guys your age and have them send pictures to him, and her, whatever. So here's some good advice. If you are Facebook, guys in the room, if you are Facebook friends with this, and you think that this girl is interested in you, in fact it is this. Just a bit of information. There are no college girls who think that 8th graders are special, cool, hot, dateable, whatever. If they're doing that, that is not really in your wheelhouse, it's that guy. Yeah, oh, he's a predator. And there's tons of them. I mean, here, and I'll give you a local example. This one's more for the girls' side of things. This is Dawson Andrew Taylor's Facebook page. This guy looked like Justin Bieber with washboard abs, except he wasn't a tool. Every day he posted about 8 to 10 status updates. He put on probably 150 to 200 pictures. So this Facebook account is probably more active than yours. Dawson had about 850 friends who were teenage girls between the ages of like 13 and 17. What had happened was, all the girls online were trying to see who Dawson would like the most. So they kept sending him whatever he wanted, which turned out to be naked pictures and videos and web chats and all this kinds of stuff. Dawson would talk to them on the phone at night for hours. Dawson Taylor would text them, 10,000 text messages a month. Billions of them. The problem is, we started looking into this, there's a picture down there that Dawson posted of him wearing a football jersey. I Googled that and found it went to a high school in South Carolina. It was actually a crappy football team. I think they were like 0-10 the year that this was taken. I found the real page for the real kid, not locked down at all. So the problem was, Dawson had taken this kid's life and become Dawson. If the real kid went bowling, Dawson Andrew Taylor went bowling. If the real kid went horseback riding or to the rodeo, then Dawson went there and had pictures to prove it. So one of the things that was really creepy that bothered a lot of us is the real kid had a friend in his town who got killed in a crash. So I imagine you can guess where this is going. So too did Dawson. And all the girls were really sad for him and really sentimental and thought it'd be nice to send him lots of naked pictures. But Dawson was getting exactly what he wanted out of this deal. This is actually the article from where the real kid died, not Dawson's imaginary friend. And this is the problem. So ultimately we got search warrants, local sheriff's department, and the FBI, and went and kicked in Dawson's door. And from what we found, everything Dawson did would have put Dawson in prison for about 50 years. Literally 50 years in federal prison. The only problem we had is that Dawson Andrew Taylor was a 13-year-old girl. So it was really entertaining to call a bunch of the girls, some of whom were helpful with us, some of whom were not, and say, hey, guess what? Your boyfriend is actually your girlfriend, and she's 3 years younger than you. Have a nice day. So, the moral of the story, yeah, well, if it can happen to that guy, it can happen to you. It is very, very difficult to know who or what you're dealing with online. More security type stuff for you with Facebook. Friends of friends is not a security setting. It doesn't do anything. If I did a really nice job on Facebook and I know all 100 of my friends, like I know them in person, I know who they are. And I'm friends with one of you that has like 1,000 Facebook friends, your 1,000 friends are my friends. And there's no way that your 1,000 friends are actually your age. Most of them look like that creepy 40, 50-year-old dude. So that becomes my friend just by virtue of us being friends. So friends of friends on Facebook, turn it off, make it friends only, because you're letting all kinds of bad people in. This is the obligatory stuff from grown-ups. Don't put your home address, don't share your cell phone number. If you don't want people to know where you are, don't tell them where you are. So going on to Facebook or Twitter and saying, hey, it's awesome, I'm at the UP Mall. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying this. If you don't want them to know where you're at, you just send them to a different place.
You could. Well, that's, if you want to lie about your locations, you can lie about two things. Lie about your security questions and lie about where you are. You don't want to make it easy for the world to know where you're at. Yeah. It depends on what the person's interest is in you. If you told them you're generally in the state of Florida, they would have to be pretty dumb to play Where's Waldo with a state that size. But the way you're thinking is very good, because you're thinking, okay, if people are going to use this to try and find me, I have to be aware of what I'm actually doing online. And that's really the whole point of all this. If all of you got that, I can just sit down. Profile pictures. This is from MySpace. This is Library of Congress type stuff. None of you have probably even seen MySpace. Okay. You may have seen it on like reruns of old TV shows. This girl was doing bad stuff online and needed help, and nobody could find where she was. And all she had posted were a bunch of pictures. So most people who have, even have people who have good Facebook security, they don't tend to lock down their profile pictures. So while I can't see what they post in their normal timeline, I can see like 100 different profile pictures that they've changed. So this is an example for that. Using these pictures and these pictures alone, our old high-tech crime unit blew them all up, and we discovered that the girl we're looking for, her name was Chelsea. She went to Rupenthal Middle School, and Russell Veterinary Service was outside of her bedroom window. Within 10 minutes, we had police at her house. Just by virtue of looking at that jumbled mess of pictures we were looking at before. Now, status updates or tweets, what's wrong with this? It tells your home address. There's no reason for this. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you nobody can figure out where you live. The entire world is full of property tax records. Everybody's address is secret. From prosecutor cop days, I used to pay the phone company $5 a month to not put my address in the phone book. Until I figured out that St. Joe County has property tax records online and my house is there. So I called the phone company and said, give me my $5 back. This isn't doing anything. But you don't need to help people. So don't put this kind of stuff online. You don't want to put your phone number online. This update, yeah, I'm going to Florida for a whole week. If it's true, what's wrong with this? Yes. Right. Have any of you ever gone out of town and had your parents put a sign in the yard that said, vacant, please burglarize? That's what this post is. This is the digital equivalent of, there's nobody home, feel free to do what you want. And I can tell you, this has happened, and it has happened here. We have had people in St. Joe County go on vacation and come home to a house that doesn't exist. And I'm not talking like somebody took their TV, they took their couch, they took their dishwasher. They took out like toilets and fixtures. They literally went home to a house that was then half built. The only way that a bad guy can figure out to call like U-Haul and get his name on for a truck and back the truck up to the house is because somebody tipped them off, you're gone for a whole bunch of time. So these status updates really are problematic. And if you have 300 Twitter followers and you don't know who they are, you're putting a sign in your front yard. If you have 1,000 Facebook friends, you're putting a sign in your front yard. Now I want to talk a little bit with you about cyberbullying. Cyberbullying has kind of become the new in topic for school administrators, teachers, and law enforcement types. Really, and the problem with cyberbullying is it's a lot different than when I was a kid. When I was a kid, if somebody got bullied, it was from like 8 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. And then it stopped because everybody went home. With every one of you having phones or iPods or iPads or computers, if this is happening, it never stops, it never ends. And so this has really gotten on everybody's radar that we need to do something about this. So here's just a general example of stupid stuff to post. One thing I want you guys to do that you're probably in the best position to do is taking care of each other. Pay attention to your friends. If their behavior radically changes, there's probably a reason. Where I come from, we call that a clue. If your friend who's always on their iPhone or their iPod or their iPad or whatever puts it all down and never looks at it, that's a big deal. You need to start looking at the person next to you and figuring out if they're okay or if something bad is going on. And you're really going to be in the best position to know that more so than anybody else. Best thing to do is not react, and as I'll talk about it, I do want you to try and save what's going on, because we can find people even who think that they're anonymous. But one of the big things for you is you can actually start dipping some of this in the bud. If you don't like the bullying posts, they're going to stay contained. If you don't share or retweet the stupid stuff that people post online, it's going to stay more contained. If you retweet bullying, you become a bully, which means you become on the radar of your teachers, the school administration, and even in some cases law enforcement. It's a lot better to keep control of your life and not let somebody else that wears a suit every day, no offense, John, make decisions about what they want to do with you. Now, do I want to make a point about the person who is forwarding on bullying messages or harassing messages? So do I want to charge them? Then we can read about it in the paper, and then I can tell 5,000 kids in St. Joe County this is a bad idea because I sacrificed you on that altar. And that's a decision that people in law enforcement have to make every day. Here's an example of an email. I got this email from my mom. Every email that you send has a whole bunch of junk in the back of it that has to, by definition, to work as an email. If you know what you're looking for in the junk, you can figure out every computer that the email touched, including where it started. I highlighted up here, though you may not be able to see it, where the email started from. I can put that into a free thing on the internet. That gives me the general area of the country where the email came from, which is where my parents live. I can type up a subpoena in 5 minutes and send it to Comcast, and I will get the home address of the person who sent that email. So I can literally do that in 10 minutes to finish, figure out where the anonymous email came from. All right, everybody know who this is? Her haircut is much worse now than it was, but Miley Cyrus and the infamous thing, selfie. This has really become a big problem for law enforcement types. This is this concept of sexting. Every one of you who's under the age of 18, if you're taking naked pictures, you are manufacturing child pornography. If you are sending those pictures to your friends, you are distributing child pornography. And that's the problem. Before every one of you had a camera in your pocket, the naked pictures of you were worth their weight in gold. People would risk 20, 30, 40 years in federal prison so they could have those pictures. Now that you're giving them away to guys that look like Kelly, whatever her name was, Kelly Rankin, and they're really that old creepy dude, they're all out and about, and we've got to deal with this. So, you know, the typical things, bad things that could happen, you can get a reputation, because every one of these stories from the school starts with boy meets girl, they fall in love, girl sends boy picture, and then boy sends it to 10 friends who send it to 10 friends, and now you've learned all about exponential growth. And that's not really the right way to learn about it, but you can't get those pictures back. These are just random examples pulled from the internet of people who have been charged with child pornography for taking naked pictures of themselves and sending it around. Or people who have gotten a naked picture from somebody and just kept it on their phone. This causes huge problems for school administrators and teachers too, because if they see it on your phone, they can't really start sending it to anybody because they're possessing child pornography. So now you put them in a trick bag where they almost have to call law enforcement, because the only people who can actually possess child pornography are law enforcement types. And it has to be controlled and it has to be documented. Your administrators just can't say who this child porn, I'll believe it. You know, and I'm not here to tell you what the law ought to be. I'm just telling you what it is. Naked pictures of you are the same thing of having a bag of cocaine. Nobody can have it, you can't hold it, you can't possess it, you certainly can't send it around to one another. and you can't share it amongst your friends. Grissom Middle School, this is a school in the northern part of the county. There were 7 kids a couple years ago that got nailed for this whole sexting crap. It's not like, it's on the permanent record and it's all this horrible stuff, but there's all kinds of newspaper articles about 7 kids suspended from school for sexting. Again, when you look to your left and right and there's 7 of your classmates missing for a week, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out who it was. So now your whole school knows, yeah, you like to take those kind of pictures and send them to people, and you got caught. And that has nothing to do with the cop side. That's embarrassing, annoying stuff that the media likes to do, because the media is annoying. Nicknick. Many of you who have been to Walmart have seen these signs in the front lobby. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has an entire division that works with basically all the known child pornography in the world. They have a group of people who 24/7, 365 go through the images and the backgrounds of those pictures to attempt to locate the people in it. Because child pornography to those people and to cops and federal prosecutors are crime scene photos of child rape. Not what ought to be, but what is. If you're not 18, you can't consent to those pictures. So they're by law against your will. Every one of those kids they want to go find and make sure they're okay. When we get your pictures, because hey, we're from the government, we're here to help, we send those to NCMEC. That way NCMEC's not trying to figure out that you live in Walkerton, Indiana. That way they know that you're not actually an endangered kid, you just think you're Miley Cyrus and went on your way. Now the upshot is, at some point in the course of your lives, you may get a federal subpoena to testify in a trial for John. Because you may have to say that 15-year-old girl on the screen was me 25 years ago. And so the creepy guy that actually possessed it in his mom's basement in Texas does in fact have child porn. I know that because it's me. The other real bad problem that we're facing with basically the proliferation of these kinds of pictures is people who you don't want to get these pictures are getting them and then using them against you. The media has coined the term sextortion. Basically all that is that creepy looking bald dude who you think is some girl from UVA who finds you dreamy, you send her a picture and she says, hey, guess what? I know that URA Middle School has a Twitter feed or a Facebook page. I'm going to take that picture that you thought was private and send to an 18-year-old co-ed from UVA, and I'm going to hashtag URA. I'm going to put it on the Facebook page. Unless you take more pictures, or you come meet me and I can guarantee you it's not to go see a movie, or any number of different ridiculous things. And this happens every day. This happened just over the border in Michigan. These 5 people were charged with crimes that could have put them in prison for life for using those pictures that way. This was one of the first cases that we gave to John to handle out of our cybercrimes unit, and John put him in federal prison for almost 20 years. Because he was doing just that. He was pretending to be somebody he wasn't on the internet, inducing people under the age of 18 to send pictures, and then saying, hey, guess what? You're going to meet me at a Motel 6 and we're going to have sex. Or guess what? You're going to take whatever pictures I tell you to, or I'm going to send it to your parents and your school and your friends. Finally, a little girl in Ohio actually went to her mom and said, hey, I think I got a problem. And that's what unraveled this guy's world and put him in prison. The one thing I want to add here as well is, if people like this are basically abusing you, you're a victim, nothing more. I can tell you from my end, from the law enforcement side of things, if you come to law enforcement and say, somebody is trying to make me do something I don't want to do online because they got pictures I shouldn't have taken, I'm not going to do anything bad to you. I'm going to go try and find that idiot and put him in prison. So, I want you to know that yes, while sexting is bad and it's annoying and we spend a lot of time wasting doing that stuff, when guys like this are taking advantage of you, you're nothing more than a victim in our world. We're not going to say, hey, thanks for telling us that this guy's taking advantage of you. I'm going to send you to the juvenile justice center. Crap, we're not doing that. I'm telling you now in front of a room of 300 or 400 people, that's not how this works. So if you or your friends do need help in this situation, it's okay to go to your parents or teachers or us or NCMEC and say, we got a problem. Because guys like this are everywhere. It's only the amount of hours in the day for us to send them up to Mr. Machesik to actually indict and prosecute. That's the limit. These guys aren't rare. Now, a little word on these. How many of you recognize at least 2 or 3 of the pictures up here? How many of you didn't raise your hand and are therefore online? Okay. There's lots of apps on the phone that you guys can do lots of good stuff with. Your parents hate these apps because they don't know about it. We're trying to tell your parents about these apps, but they hate it to know about it. I love these apps because I will tell you, if you send a text to AT&T or Verizon, they don't keep it. Text now, these companies, they keep the texts. Everything you sent, they keep. I sent a subpoena, which actually shouldn't work, to the people who own text now, and they sent me 10,000 text messages that are suspect in sent. If the guy had been using AT&T and Verizon or using his cell phone, I would have gotten 0. So I like those. Snapchat, this one's outstanding. There is no legitimate purpose for Snapchat but for sending basically child porn back and forth. The best part is none of those pictures actually go away. Every one of the Snapchats that you ever received where the timer went off, they're still on your phone. I can find those. That's very easy. You can do it with other apps you can buy. I can do it the old-fashioned way, and I can open it up on my iPad and just film it with my iPhone. So now I've got whatever it is that you thought was only there for 5 seconds. Easy. Almost every time we get some kid's phone in the search warrant, we find all kinds of saved Snapchats. So, public service announcement, Snapchat's not what they advertise it to be for you. So, if you're gonna do that, find a different way, because this one doesn't work. Wrapping up, here's the part of you and the old parent. You know infinitely more than your parents do about what's going on online. Candidly, you know infinitely more about what's going on online than I do. I'm always behind the curve because I'm only catching the people whose phones I end up getting and saying, what the hell is that? Oh, wow. You guys are really on the cutting edge of this. So when you're feeling particularly charitable, help your parents understand what's going on. Parents nowadays are in they're in a tough situation. Because when I was growing up, all our parents had to do to tell us where the bad guys were was stay away from people in windowless panel vans, trench coats, or people offering you candy at the park. Most of our parents were competent to do that. The problem is the bad guys now have iPhones and iPads. And I mean, if they don't have good taste in cell phones, they have Androids. But this is what they have, and you can't tell good from bad. So they don't know. They don't know what Snapchat does. They don't know what Text Now is. They don't know Pinger or Wicker. They don't know Instagram. They don't know any of these different things that you guys are living your worlds on. So a couple suggestions for you on what can be done. If you or your friends are actually getting taken advantage of by one of the creeps who we've shown up here, obviously I would say talk to a trusted teacher or your parents. Feel free to call the police. Or you can go to NCMEC's website, missingkids.com. You can Google NCMEC. They have what's called a cyber tip line, where you can make an anonymous report of exploitation online. NCMEC then funnels that to the law enforcement that's most appropriate to look into it, and they do. So I don't want people to say, well, I'm worried about my friend, but I don't know if I want to get involved. When we see this in homicides, it's the same way in kid cases. I'm not sure if I should cooperate. You can do it anonymously through NCMEC. You know, Crime Stoppers, we don't write your number down. NCMEC doesn't write down anything to identify you. But if somebody needs help, you can go there and at least get the ball started for local law enforcement if somebody needs some kind of help. Talk with each other, Google things you don't understand about. I mean, really, the thing is, good passwords, figure out your password reset questions, and understand that pretty much everybody is constantly looking at you. I mean, their comments up the front about, well, maybe I should start lying about where I am, that's really true. If you're thinking like that, you're actually thinking, okay, who is it? And it may not be the creepy guy, but maybe there's a kid in your class who you don't want them to know where you are. Maybe there's kids in your class, parents. You don't want them to know who you are, or where you are, or what you're doing. So if you start thinking that people online are keeping tabs of where you are, you're going to be a lot safer online. If you're not losing control of your passwords or your accounts, and you're not getting hacked, and you're not tipping off where in the world you are, you're having a pretty good day. I do up there, I have an email address, SJCPD, St. Joseph County Police Department, .cybercrimes. That goes to me. If any of you ever feel inclined to, I guess, be helpful, as kids move from text now and Pinger and, we've got apps that look like calculators where you can hide pictures. If you think of it, I'd love it if somebody would send me an email and saying, hey, here's where the next people are going. I'm not going to use them in presentations. I'm not going to say, hey, I want to thank John from the middle school who tipped me off, but from the adult side of things, we're behind the 8 ball on whatever's coming up for you. So we could use the help. Obviously, you can also, if you have a problem, you can send it to me there as well. You can use NCMEC, you can call the police, you can talk to your teachers, parents, principals. But I do want to say that if there's somebody out there that wants to say, hey, your presentation was kind of like so 2011, this is where everybody is, let me know. Anybody have any questions before I'm done? Yeah. The question is, what happens if the creepy guy finds another creepy guy online? It happens. I mean, they're usually pretty good because they're each asking each other to send pictures and neither one will. Although sometimes what they'll do is they've got their pictures that they store and they hoard. Because, and John can tell you this, when we catch these guys, we find thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures on the hard drives that they keep. They're collectors. You may have collected baseball cards, they collect child porn. So if two creepy people meet in the dark, they may just keep sending each other child porn to one another. The real problem is what happens when I meet somebody like John, and we're both investigating the same thing. And now my group of people thinks, ooh, I've got a live one. His group of people thinks, ooh, I've got a live one. And then we're worried about cops showing up to arrest other cops. Because we're both undercover and nobody knows who we are. So we've worked on solving that. There's ways to solve that problem, but that still does happen. Well, we'll spend 6 months going after somebody only to find out that it was an undercover team out of Kokomo that was playing the opposite of what we're looking for. We've done Craigslist themes where we put stuff on Craigslist, making the post as stupid as they possibly can be. I mean, they'd be things like, hi, my name is Sue, I have 2 kids I want to sell, and I'm taking names from Barry Manilow songs. I think we had like Desire, and we had Mandy from Barry Manilow. And we had guys coming down from Michigan to have sex with basically me. Until they figured out that, well, okay, you're not actually 14. I'm going to arrest you. Have a nice day. It's not like Chris Hansen on, We Catch a Predator. We don't come out in a suit and start reading transcripts. He gets tackled by a bunch of really burly people, handcuffed, and then taken to prison. So it's not all that fun. It probably would be better television than, the guy walking out going, let me read what you wrote. We already have it, we don't care. Any other questions before I turn it back over to your principal?
Eric or John, thank you.